Charitable gaming has been a fixture in Minnesota since 1985. It's now going high-tech. Joining me now, we have the Executive Director of the Minnesota Gambling Control Board, Tom Barrett. Thanks so much for joining us, Tom.
Good to be here. Thanks, Julie.
Tom, first of all, before we talk a little bit about what you are hearing from people, show us a little bit about what the device is and how it works and what you want Minnesotans to know about this.
Well, thank you. This is one of the first approved games. It happens to look like an iPad device, but it plays. You can simply, there you go. You purchase one, you reveal each tab.
And working under the assumption that people purchase everything online, and what kind of security do you have? What kind of security measures are in place?
Yeah, it's similar to what they do now. They go up to buy the paper tab. It'll be the same booth.
I just won.
We got a winner. But anyway, you go to the central sales location, offer your $20. With these particular devices, you'll be required to show a picture ID, so you're of legal age, and they load up the device with the $20 worth of credits. You go back to your table, enjoy a beverage, but you can play as you're sitting there.
Okay.
Now, if you win, you simply go back to that same point of sale. Here's my winnings, turn the device in, and they pay you, similar to what we experience right now with the paper.
Okay, and I'm ahead. I'm quitting while I'm ahead.
Okay.
So, Tom, let's talk a little bit. They've been in the bar, some bars, for about a week now. What are you hearing from the bar owners and from people? Very
good, because first of all, the board's very pleased with the initial rollout. In less than 4 months from the time the legislature approved the provision, they have the electronic devices in select locations. But the rollout's been very good. The numbers, the initial numbers, again, it's some novelty, but very promising in terms of the activity. In fact, Wednesday morning, the following day, our phones at the Gambling Control Board were ringing off the hook from other locations wanting this kind of gaming format in their locations and wanting to know how they can make that happen.
And so how many places do have these currently?
Right now, there's approximately 12. The initial first day of the release, there's 5. Totally in the state right now, we have 2,800 sales locations, veterans posts, the bars.
So I want to talk a little bit about the paper. You brought some examples of the paper as well. So some establishments are still using the paper pull tabs. Some are using these tablet devices. Now, if these games are projected to fund about $350 million of the $975 million needed for a Viking stadium, what's a realistic number for how many tablets and establishments need to move to electronic?
Yeah, there's quite a formula involved in terms of the numbers. But if we start, first of all, the 2,800 locations, when we did the initial estimates for the fiscal note, we didn't think all 2,800 would want to go with the electronic. So we actually used a rate of 2,500 sites for the electronic pull tabs. And there's also, which we haven't talked about, electronic link bingo, which is yet to launch. But we also factored in that game format at approximately 1,500 locations. So we take those locations. In the law is based on the size of the establishment. Small bar, they could have up to six devices in play. Bigger bar, up to 12 devices in play for each form of the game. So based on that formula, based on the seating capacity, there's a number of things that went into the projections. But overall, talking with industry experts on this electronic format, what it could do in terms of anticipated sales, that's where we put the numbers down on the paper to see. Now, there's a lot of skeptics. I might be one of them because this is an unknown. There's a lot of states that are watching Minnesota to see how this gaming format. The state of Virginia is gearing up for identical type device, but nowhere in the state or in the country has this format been launched for charitable gaming.
So what if the revenue does fall short for the Viking Stadium?
There's a couple of blink-on provisions that were included in the legislation. A lottery, sports theme ticket, and some, I believe, the luxury suite tax. But we're working real close in terms with the charities, with the bar owners. The receptivity has been very positive. The vendors that are already in place, this particular vendor that was first approved, very optimistic. They've invested millions of dollars in this equipment, the software. So that's an indication that I think there's some confidence with them. We have 4 other vendors that are going through the background checks, soon to come online if everything checks out. So the interest is very high in terms of this gaming format.
And Minnesotans are going to want to know, is the payout higher for this, the same for this? You know, how does it compare to the paper?
Yes, the maximum allowed for both paper and electronics is 85%. 85%. The games that were just approved last week are all at 85%. Paper games, depending upon where you play, you'd see a mix as low as, in the low 70s to as much as 85%. But I think included in a lot of the, it's important for the viewers to know, included with the language was tax reform benefiting the charities. So there were some taxes that make it a little more cost effective for the charities in terms of the taxes associated with the games.
Okay, so Tom, my last question. We've seen you have 5 games on these tablets currently. What's next? What's the big vision for this?
Technology is changing as we speak, and it is amazing. What we were looking at 3 years ago when the charitable industry first approached with the hope of having electronics to compete, so much has changed, and it's changed in the last month. And I mean that sincerely. We see about the iPad or iPhone devices selling out and people waiting in line. It's interesting to see what's going on with technology and how it's changing. We could see smaller units in the very near future. The games are constantly in flux, dealing with some of the other vendors, the animation, those kinds of features. But what's more important and helpful for the viewers to understand, the regulatory. Right now with the paper, we're kind of very dependent on the charities and their monthly reporting to revenue, which happens after the month ends, another month before they report. We have online access immediately, so we can monitor how these games are being played, what some of the activity is. And frankly, when it comes time to shut the bar down, they shut down the bar. Sometimes there's been episodes where the play continues after hours. Not a big deal, but it's one of those things that this new technology has also afforded us a leg up on the regulation.
So your role with the Minnesota Gambling Control Board, last question, are you excited about this, a little nervous about this? How are you feeling?
Good question, because as regulators, I understand the intent behind the legislation. It was our job to get it out. Very happy with the progress we've made. But we still stay neutral in terms of we understand the social concerns and those things. Certainly a concern of projections. Are these going to add up to what is expected? Based on the initial, and I caution as far as any over enthusiasm, but based on the initial, less than a week into it and the sites that we're monitoring, the numbers have come in better than we expected.
So Tom Barrett, with those words, thank you for your time, your perspective, and for bringing in an example. We certainly appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks, Julie.